The crimson dust of Kepler 442c swirled around Dr. Elena Vasquez's boots as she approached the crystalline structure that had been calling to her team for 3 days. Not literally calling, of course. Elena was far too practical for that kind of mystical nonsense, but the energy readings emanating from the buried temple were unlike anything in the xenoarchaeological databases. They pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost organic, as if the ancient structure had a heartbeat. "Proximity sensors are going crazy, Doc," called Marcus Chen, her graduate assistant, whose enthusiasm for alien archaeology was matched only by his talent for stating the obvious. "Whatever's in there has been waiting a long time to be found." Elena adjusted her environmental suit's heads-up display, watching the energy signatures dance across her visor like Aurora Borealis having a particularly energetic day. After 15 years of digging through the ruins of dead civilizations, she'd learned to approach new discoveries with healthy skepticism and a full complement of emergency protocols. The universe had a disturbing tendency to booby-trap its most interesting secrets. "Thermal imaging shows the interior temperature is 20 degrees warmer than ambient," reported Dr. Kim Sato, the team's xenobiologist, whose scanner readings had been growing increasingly excited for the past hour. "There are definitely active systems down there." The temple itself defied easy categorization. Its crystalline walls seemed to grow from the planet's crust rather than being built upon it, and the geometric patterns carved into its surface shifted subtly when viewed from different angles. Elena had seen plenty of alien architecture during her career, but nothing that seemed quite so alive. "Standard archaeological protocol," Elena announced to her team. "Full documentation, minimal disturbance, and nobody touches anything without clearance from me first. We're not just exploring a ruin, we're potentially making first contact with technology that's been dormant for centuries." The entrance sealed itself behind them with a whisper of displaced air, which should have been Elena's first clue that this expedition was about to deviate significantly from standard archaeological procedure. The interior corridors were illuminated by veins of bioluminescent material that pulsed in response to their presence, creating a light show that was both beautiful and mildly ominous. "The architecture suggests a species with advanced understanding of crystalline engineering," Elena observed, recording everything through her suit's cameras. "The energy distribution patterns are remarkably efficient, almost as if the entire structure is designed to amplify and focus some kind of power source." They descended deeper into the temple complex, following corridors that seemed to guide them toward a central chamber. Elena's instruments detected no hazardous atmosphere, no dangerous radiation, and no signs of hostile defensive systems. Instead, the temple felt almost welcoming, as if it had been waiting patiently for visitors to arrive. The central chamber took Elena's breath away. The space soared upward into crystalline heights that disappeared into darkness, while the floor was inlaid with patterns that seemed to tell a story in symbols she couldn't read. But what dominated the chamber was the raised dais in the center, upon which stood what appeared to be a stasis pod made from the same living crystal as the temple walls. "Life signs," Kim reported, her voice tight with excitement and concern. "Faint but definitely present. Whatever's in there is alive." Elena approached the pod cautiously, noting how the chamber's bioluminescent veins grew brighter with each step she took. Through the crystal's translucent surface, she could make out a humanoid form, tall, elegant, and decidedly not human. "Dr. Vasquez," Marcus whispered, "should we really be doing this? I mean, what if it's some kind of alien Sleeping Beauty situation and we accidentally wake up something that's been locked away for good reason? Then we'll deal with it scientifically and diplomatically," Elena replied, though privately she admitted Marcus had a point. "Kim, what are your readings showing?" "Biologically stable. The stasis systems appear to be automated, they've been maintaining optimal conditions for what looks like several thousand years. But the power levels are declining. Whether we wake her up or not, she won't stay asleep much longer." Elena studied the alien figure in the pod. Even in stasis, there was something regal about her bearing, something that suggested intelligence and perhaps nobility. Her skin had a luminous silver quality, and her ears were elongated in a way that reminded Elena of ancient Earth legends about elves. "Document everything," Elena ordered. If we're going to be responsible for waking someone up after millennia of sleep, we're going to do it right. The stasis pod began to respond to Elena's presence, its crystal surface becoming more transparent as energy patterns flowed through the chamber. Elena felt a strange tingling in her fingertips, as if the temple systems were somehow scanning her. "Elena," Kim's voice carried a note of alarm, "your biosignature is causing some kind of resonance cascade. The entire chamber is responding to you specifically." Before Elena could step back, the pod's surface dissolved like morning mist, revealing the alien woman within. She was breathtakingly beautiful in a way that transcended species, with features that seemed to blend the best of humanity with something altogether more ethereal. Her eyes opened slowly, focusing on Elena with an intelligence that was immediately apparent. The alien woman sat up gracefully, her movements fluid despite having been in stasis for unknown ages. She looked directly at Elena, and something like recognition flickered across her features. When she spoke, her voice was melodious and carried an accent that Elena couldn't place. "I greet thee, traveler of stars," the alien woman said in perfect English, her words formal but warm. "I am Lyralii, guardian of the first temple and keeper of the ancient ways. Might I inquire as to thy name and purpose in this sacred place?" Elena blinked, surprised by the English and the formal manner of speech. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez, xenoarchaeologist from Earth. This is my research team. We're here to study your civilization's artifacts and hopefully learn about your people's history." The effect of Elena's words was immediate and unexpected. Lyralii's eyes widened, and she gracefully slid from the stasis pod to kneel before Elena, her head bowed in what appeared to be reverence. "My lord," Lyralii said, her musical voice carrying notes of awe and something that sounded like relief. "The prophecy speaks truth. The Starborn has returned to guide us to the new dawn." Elena stared down at the kneeling alien woman, acutely aware that her team was watching this interaction with expressions of scientific fascination mixed with complete bewilderment. This was definitely not covered in any xenoarchaeological protocol she'd ever studied. "I'm sorry, there's been a misunderstanding," Elena said, extending her hand to help Lyralii stand. "I'm not anyone's lord. I'm just a scientist from Earth trying to understand your culture." But Lyralii remained kneeling, her silver skin seeming to glow with inner light. "The temple recognizes thee, as do I. The bloodline markers are unmistakable. Thou art the one we have awaited through the long sleep." Elena looked at her team, hoping someone might have an explanation for this turn of events. Marcus was frantically taking notes, Kim was running every scan she could think of, and the rest of her team seemed caught between scientific excitement and the distinct feeling that they'd stumbled into something far more complex than a simple archaeological expedition. "Lyralii," Elena said gently, "please stand up. I'd like to understand what you mean by prophecy and bloodline markers. Can you help me learn about your people's beliefs?" Lyralii rose with fluid grace but maintained a respectful distance that somehow managed to feel like continued reverence. "The Ethrin have waited 10,000 years for the return of the Starborn Lord, he who carries the genetic legacy of the First Ones and can awaken the sleeping technologies that will restore our people to greatness." "The Ethrin?" Elena repeated. "That's your species?" "Indeed, my lord. We are the children of the stars, crafters of crystal and shapers of light. Long have we slumbered, waiting for thy return to guide us back to the cosmic paths our ancestors once walked." Elena felt the weight of expectation settling around her like a particularly complex archaeological puzzle. Somewhere in this temple, in this situation, in the way the alien technology responded to her presence, there were answers waiting to be discovered. But first, she had to figure out how to handle being mistaken for some kind of prophesied leader by a civilization that had been waiting 10 millennia for her arrival. "This is going to require a lot more documentation," she muttered, while Lyralii watched her with the devoted attention of someone waiting for divine guidance. Marcus leaned over to Kim. "Think our insurance covers accidental religious leadership of alien civilizations?" "I'm pretty sure that falls under acts of cosmic irony," Kim replied. "Which means we're probably on our own." Elena sighed, looking at Lyraliai's expectant face and realizing that her quiet career in xenoarchaeology had just become significantly more complicated. Elena had faced many challenges during her career as a xenoarchaeologist, but explaining to an ancient alien civilization that she wasn't their prophesied messiah while simultaneously trying to conduct scientific research was proving uniquely difficult. The situation became exponentially more complex when more Ethrin began emerging from hidden stasis chambers throughout the temple complex. "My lord," Lyraliai said, guiding Elena through corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves to accommodate their passage, "the Great Awakening has begun. The temple senses thy presence and calls our people from their long sleep." Elena watched in fascination and growing alarm as crystalline pods materialized from the walls, each containing another Ethrin in perfect stasis. As they passed, the pods began their revival sequences, releasing beings who looked at Elena with the same mixture of awe and immediate submission that Lyraliai had displayed. "This is unprecedented," Kim whispered, her scanners working overtime to record the biological processes involved in the mass awakening. "The stasis technology is unlike anything we've ever encountered. They're not just sleeping, they've been in a state of perfect temporal suspension." Marcus was frantically documenting everything, his cameras capturing each new awakening while he muttered academic observations under his breath. Note: subject species demonstrates advanced biotechnology integration. Possible symbiotic relationship between alien physiology and crystalline architecture. Also note: expedition leader may have accidentally assumed command of entire alien civilization. "Marcus," Elena said through gritted teeth, "that last part doesn't go in the official report." "But Doc, you've got to admit this is pretty significant from an anthropological standpoint. I mean, how often does someone discover they're genetically compatible with alien prophecies?" Elena paused to consider this point while another Ethrin emerged from stasis, took one look at her, and immediately dropped into the same reverent kneel that was becoming disturbingly familiar. "My lord," the newly awakened Ethrin said in accented but clear English, "I am Valdris, keeper of the crystal forges. The stars have spoken truly, the Starborn walks among us once more. Please, just call me Elena," she said, helping Valdris to his feet. "And I really need everyone to stop kneeling. It's making scientific observation very difficult." Lyraliai translated Elena's words into the melodious Ethrin language, which sounded like music played on instruments made of light. The growing crowd of awakened Ethrin listened with rapt attention, then began discussing among themselves in excited tones. "They ask if this informality is part of the new ways you will teach us," Lyraliai explained. "Many of our prophecies speak of how the Starborn Lord will bring change to our traditional customs." Elena rubbed her temples, feeling the beginnings of what promised to be an epic headache. "Lyraliai, can you explain exactly what these prophecies say? Because I'm starting to think there's been a significant misunderstanding here." "Of course, my lord." Lyraliai's expression grew reverent as she began to recite. "In the time of the great silence, when the stars grow dim and the crystal songs fade, there shall come one who bears the marks of the first ones in their very essence. The Starborn shall awaken the sleeping children of Ethros and lead them to new worlds where the crystal cities will rise again. And you think I'm this Starborn person because the temple systems recognize thy genetic signature, my lord. The probability matrices are quite specific. Thou dost carry markers found only in those descended from the first ones, the ancient Ethrin who walked between stars before the great departure." Elena exchanged glances with her team. The implications of what Lyraliai was suggesting were staggering from both archaeological and biological perspectives. "Kim," Elena said quietly, "I need you to run a complete genetic analysis on both me and our hosts here. If there's really some kind of biological connection between humans and the Ethrin, we need to document it properly." "Already on it," Kim replied, her portable laboratory working to process samples. "The preliminary results are interesting. There are definitely some unusual markers in your DNA that I've never seen before, and they do seem to resonate with the Ethrin biological signatures." More Ethrin continued to emerge from stasis, and Elena found herself at the center of what appeared to be an impromptu religious gathering. The newly awakened beings looked at her with expressions of hope and devotion that made her deeply uncomfortable. Perhaps, Lyralii suggested, my lord would care to address the assembled people. They have waited so long to hear the voice of the Starborn. I wouldn't know what to say, Elena protested. I'm a scientist, not a religious leader. Speak from thy heart, my lord. The wisdom of the Starborn flows through thy words. Elena looked at the expectant faces surrounding her, all waiting for some kind of divine guidance. She took a deep breath and decided to approach this the same way she would any other complex research situation. My friends, she began, pleased that her voice carried clearly through the crystalline chamber, I know you've been waiting a long time for someone to return and lead you. But I think it's important that we get to know each other first, as equals, before making any assumptions about leadership or prophecy. The Ethrin listened intently as Lyralii translated, their expressions shifting from reverence to curiosity. I come from a world called Earth, where my people study the history and cultures of other civilizations. We believe that understanding comes through cooperation and shared knowledge, not through one person commanding others. Murmurs of discussion rippled through the assembled Ethrin. Elena could see them processing this unfamiliar concept of collaborative leadership. So instead of me telling you what to do, Elena continued, I'd like to learn about your people, your history, and your needs. Then maybe together we can figure out the best path forward. When Lyralii finished translating, the response was immediate and enthusiastic. The Ethrin began talking excitedly among themselves, and Elena could hear variations of the word Starborn mixed with what sounded like approving comments. They say this approach confirms that thou art indeed the prophesied leader, Lyralii explained with a smile that Elena was beginning to find both charming and exasperating. The ancient text spoke of one who would lead through wisdom rather than dominance, who would seek understanding before action. Of course they did, Elena muttered. Because apparently I can't do anything around here without fulfilling some prophecy. Over the following hours, Elena found herself receiving an intensive education in Ethrin culture and history. The Ethrin had once been a spacefaring civilization with technology based on crystalline matrices that could store and manipulate energy in ways that seemed almost magical. They had explored vast regions of the galaxy before some great catastrophe forced them to retreat to this world and enter stasis, waiting for a time when conditions would be favorable for their return to the stars. The great departure was not by choice, Valdris explained, his crystalline tools singing softly as he worked to restore power to another section of the temple. Our homeworld faced destruction, and the seers prophesied that our people must scatter among the stars to preserve our knowledge and culture. Some of our ancestors traveled to distant worlds, Lyralii added. Including, according to our records, a world of blue skies and vast waters in a young system where primitive life was beginning to flourish. Elena felt a chill of recognition. Are you saying the Ethrin visited Earth? The records are incomplete, Lyralii admitted, but the genetic markers suggest that some of our people remained on that distant world, their bloodlines eventually mixing with the native species. Kim looked up from her genetic analysis equipment, her expression shocked. Elena, you need to see these results. According to this data, you're carrying Ethrin genetic sequences that have been dormant in the human population for thousands of years. Elena stared at the readout, trying to process the implications. If Kim's analysis was correct, then humanity wasn't alone in the universe, it never had been. Somewhere in the distant past, humans and Ethrin had shared common ancestors. This changes everything, Elena said quietly. Not just for archaeology, but for how we understand humanity's place in the universe. Indeed, my lord, Lyralii said gently. Thou art living proof that the children of Earth and the children of Ethros are one people, separated only by time and distance. As Elena absorbed this revelation, alarms began sounding throughout the temple complex. The crystalline walls flashed with warning patterns, and Lyralii's expression shifted from joy to concern. What's happening? Elena asked. Ship's approach, Valdris reported, his hands dancing over control interfaces that appeared at his touch. Multiple vessels, unknown configuration. They do not respond to our greetings. Elena felt a knot of worry form in her stomach. Hostile. Unknown, my lord. But they arrive with weapons powered and shields raised. It seems our awakening has attracted attention from those who may not welcome the return of the Ethrin. Elena looked at her small research team, then at the growing community of newly awakened Ethrin who were looking to her for guidance. Somehow, in the space of a few hours, she'd gone from quiet academic to the protector of an entire alien civilization. Well, she said, trying to inject confidence into her voice, I guess it's time to find out if I really am leadership material. Marcus looked up from his documentation. Should I add interstellar diplomatic crisis management to your list of qualifications? Let's see how this goes first, Elena replied, while Lyralii began organizing the Ethrin for whatever was coming. I might not survive long enough to update my resume. The approaching ships materialized on the temple's crystalline viewing screens like harbingers of complications Elena definitely hadn't planned for. 3 vessels of aggressive design hung in Kepler 442c's orbit, their hulls bristling with weapon arrays that suggested their builders had strong opinions about peaceful exploration. Kethmore raiders, Valdris identified with a grimness that made Elena's stomach sink. They are unpleasant neighbors. Pirates and salvagers who prey upon ancient sites and defenseless civilizations. Define defenseless, Elena said, studying the tactical displays that the temple systems were helpfully providing. The Ethrin technology was remarkably intuitive, responding to her thoughts almost as if it could read her mind. The Ethrin have not engaged in warfare for millennia, Lyralii explained, her elegant features showing concern. Our people chose the path of preservation and knowledge over conquest and violence. That's admirable, Elena replied, watching as smaller craft launched from the raider ships, but right now I'm more interested in whether you have any weapons we can use to defend ourselves. Marcus looked up from his frantic documentation efforts. Doc, shouldn't we try contacting our ship? The research vessel Darwin has some defensive capabilities. The Darwin is 3 days away at minimum burn, Elena replied grimly. We're on our own here. Kim's biological scanners were detecting the approaching craft. I'm reading multiple species aboard those ships. Looks like a mixed crew of various aliens, all with elevated stress hormones and aggressive behavioral patterns. Pirates, Elena concluded. Wonderful. My first day as an accidental alien leader and we're already under attack. The temple's communication systems chimed with an incoming message. The voice that emerged was harsh, mechanical, and thoroughly unpleasant. Primitive dwellers of the crystal tomb, you will surrender all artifacts and technology immediately. Resistance will result in the conversion of your organic matter into useful components for our ship's recycling systems. Elena felt a flash of anger at the casual threat. Can we respond to that transmission? Of course, my lord, Lyralii said, activating the communication array with a gesture. What would thou have me tell them? Elena stepped forward, her scientific training warring with protective instincts she didn't know she possessed. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, representing the people of this world. Your threats are unacceptable. We suggest you leave peacefully before this situation escalates. The response came as harsh laughter. A human speaks for the crystal singers. Amusing. We claim this world and all its treasures by right of superior firepower. Surrender now, or we will take what we want from your corpses. I really hate pirates, Elena muttered, then addressed the Ethrin who had gathered around her. Okay, people, I need options. What kind of defensive capabilities does this temple have? Valdris manipulated crystalline control surfaces, bringing up displays that showed the temple's systems. The structure itself possesses significant shielding capabilities, and the power core can generate defensive barriers. However, the weapon systems have been dormant for so long that their operational status is uncertain. My lord, Lyralii said quietly, there is another option. The temple's archives contain records of defensive protocols that can only be activated by one who carries the genetic markers of the first ones. Elena studied the tactical situation while explosions began lighting up the sky as the raiders commenced their assault. What kind of defensive protocols? The awakening defense, Valdris explained, his hands moving over controls that responded to Elena's presence. It links the temple's systems with the Starborn's bioelectrical patterns, creating a unified defense network powered by both technology and the unique resonance of the First One's bloodline. That sounds both incredibly advanced and potentially dangerous, Elena observed. What are the risks? Unknown, my lord. The system has never been tested with a hybrid genetic pattern such as thine. Elena watched the raider ships maneuvering for a ground assault while smaller craft began landing near the temple complex. Her research team looked to her for guidance, while the Ethrin waited with the patient faith of people accustomed to following prophesied leaders. Kim, Elena said decisively, I need you to monitor my vital signs. If this defense system starts killing me, I want to know about it immediately. Elena, you can't seriously be considering. I'm considering protecting people who can't protect themselves, Elena interrupted. That's what leaders do, right? Even accidentally appointed ones. She approached the temple's central control nexus, a crystalline formation that pulsed with increasing intensity as she drew near. The moment her hands touched the control surface, energy coursed through her nervous system like liquid lightning. The sensation was overwhelming. Elena felt her consciousness expanding to encompass the entire temple complex, then beyond to the surrounding landscape. Through the Ethrin technology, she could sense the approaching raiders, their crude aggressive thoughts a harsh contrast to the harmonious mental patterns of the Ethrin. Systems online, she heard herself say, though her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Defensive matrix activated. The temple complex transformed around them. Crystalline walls became translucent, revealing energy conduits that flowed like rivers of light. The ground itself began to sing with harmonic frequencies that made the approaching raiders' equipment malfunction. Elena, still connected to the defense network, could feel the raiders' confusion as their ship systems began failing. The elegant Ethrin technology didn't simply destroy, it persuaded hostile systems to become peaceful, converting weapon arrays into harmless light displays and turning engine cores into generators of beautiful music. This is impossible, the raider captain's voice crackled over the communication system, his earlier arrogance replaced by bewilderment. Our weapons are producing flowers. Our targeting computers are composing poetry. Through her expanded awareness, Elena could sense the raiders' fundamental nature. They were predators driven by desperation and greed, but not inherently evil. The Ethrin defense systems weren't designed to destroy enemies but to transform conflict into understanding. Captain, Elena said, her voice carrying across all frequencies, your crews are experiencing the Ethrin approach to conflict resolution. Your weapons have been converted to creative tools, your ship systems are now generating art instead of destruction. You have a choice. Continue your hostile intentions and watch your technology become increasingly useless, or accept our offer of peaceful contact. What kind of sorcery is this? The captain demanded. Science, Elena replied. Very advanced science applied with compassion rather than violence. The Ethrin don't believe in destroying their enemies, they prefer converting them into friends. The transformation was remarkable to observe. As the defense network continued its work, the raider ships began producing beautiful light displays instead of weapon fire. Their crew members, exposed to the harmonic frequencies, found their aggressive impulses replaced by curiosity and wonder. We cannot fight, the captain reported, his voice filled with confusion. Our crew keeps breaking into spontaneous musical performances. Our ship's computer is asking if it can compose a symphony. That's the Ethrin way, Elena explained, feeling the defense network's influence spreading to encompass the entire system. They believe that conflict arises from misunderstanding and that understanding comes through shared beauty and knowledge. Over the next few hours, Elena watched as the former raiders became fascinated guests. Their ships, now generating artistic displays instead of threats, landed peacefully near the temple. The crew members, their aggressive conditioning neutralized by Ethrin harmonic technology, began interacting with the awakened Ethrin like curious students. When Elena finally disconnected from the defense network, she found herself surrounded by her research team, all looking at her with expressions of scientific fascination mixed with concern. "Elena," Kim said quietly, "your bio readings during that defense sequence were unlike anything I've ever seen. It was as if you and the temple's systems achieved complete symbiosis." "I felt it," Elena admitted, still processing the experience. "For a while there, I wasn't just Elena Vasquez anymore. I was part of something larger, the collective consciousness of Ethran technology guided by human intuition." Lyralii approached with her characteristic grace. "My lord, thou hast demonstrated the true power of the starborn bloodline. The prophecies spoke truly, thou canst indeed bridge the gap between our people and the greater galaxy." Elena looked out at the transformed raider crews, who were now engaged in animated conversations with the Ethran about art, science, and philosophy. "I think I'm beginning to understand something important here. The prophecy wasn't about finding a leader to rule the Ethran, it was about finding someone who could help them reconnect with the rest of the universe." "Indeed," Valdris agreed. "For too long, we have slept in isolation. But the Starborn brings the gift of connection, between our people and others, between technology and wisdom, between conflict and understanding." Marcus looked up from his documentation. "So you're not just their prophesied leader, you're their ambassador to the rest of the galaxy." Elena considered this as she watched a former pirate captain trying to learn Ethran musical notation while an ancient crystal singer taught him the harmonies of interstellar peace. "Maybe," she said thoughtfully. "Or maybe I'm something even more important, I'm proof that different species can work together, learn from each other, and create something beautiful in the process." The implications were staggering. If humans carried Ethran genetic markers, then there were probably others like Elena throughout human space. The discovery could revolutionize not just archaeology but humanity's entire relationship with alien civilizations. But first, she had to figure out what to do with a temple full of ancient aliens, a crew of reformed pirates, and the growing realization that her quiet academic career was about to become very, very complicated. 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the newly established New Ethros station, watching as construction crews, a mix of humans, Ethran, and reformed Kethmore raiders, worked together to complete the station's crystalline spires. The sight still amazed her, beings from multiple species collaborating to build something that represented hope rather than conquest. "The council meeting is ready to begin, my lord," Lyralii said, approaching with the fluid grace that Elena had come to associate with her closest advisor and, if she was being honest with herself, something much more personal. "Lyralii," Elena said with gentle exasperation, "we've talked about this. You don't need to call me, my lord, anymore. We're partners in this venture." "Old habits," Lyralii replied with the musical laugh that never failed to make Elena's heart skip. "Though I admit, I prefer the intimacy of using thy given name." Over the months since the awakening, their relationship had evolved far beyond the initial dynamic of worshipful alien and confused human. Elena had learned to appreciate Lyralii's intelligence, wisdom, and the way her alien perspective complemented Elena's human pragmatism. Lyralii, in turn, had moved beyond seeing Elena as a prophetic figure to recognizing her as an individual worth caring about for who she was rather than what she represented. "How are our newest arrivals settling in?" Elena asked as they walked toward the council chambers. "The latest group of humans with Ethran genetic markers have adapted remarkably well," Lyralii reported. "Dr. Martinez from the Centauri colonies has proven particularly adept at crystal singing, while Engineer Thompson has established an immediate rapport with our technology systems." Elena nodded with satisfaction. The discovery that roughly 1 in 10,000 humans carried dormant Ethran genetic sequences had revolutionized both species' understanding of their shared history. New Ethros Station had become a gathering point for these hybrid individuals, creating the first truly integrated human Ethran community in galactic history. And the Kethmore integration program? Captain Vextar reports that his former crew members have taken to peaceful trade with enthusiasm bordering on obsession, Lyralii said with amusement. They've discovered that exchanging art and knowledge is far more profitable than piracy, both financially and spiritually. The council chambers represented everything Elena hoped the station would become. Representatives from dozens of species sat around a crystalline table that translated thoughts and emotions as easily as words, facilitating understanding between beings who might never have communicated otherwise. Dr. Vasquez greeted Ambassador Chen from Earth Colonial Administration. The latest reports from your station continue to exceed all expectations. The cultural exchange programs have resulted in technological advances that are revolutionizing our understanding of interspecies cooperation. The credit belongs to everyone who's chosen to participate, Elena replied, taking her seat at the table. We've simply proven that different perspectives can create something greater than the sum of their parts. Captain Vextar, the former pirate who now served as head of station security, leaned forward with the enthusiasm of a convert. The harmonic resonance protocols have eliminated conflict incidents by 97%. My former colleagues throughout the outer sectors are requesting information about establishing similar peacekeeping methods. Elena smiled at the transformation. Vextar had gone from threatening to convert her organic matter into recycling components to becoming one of the station's most effective advocates for peaceful conflict resolution. We've received formal requests from 17 different species asking to establish permanent diplomatic missions here, reported Valdris, who had become the station's chief technology coordinator. The Ethran crystal song translation methods are enabling communication between species that have been unable to understand each other for centuries. What about the exploration initiatives? Elena asked. Remarkable progress, Lyralii answered, her excitement evident. The joint Human Ethran survey teams have identified 43 worlds with signs of ancient Ethran presence. Each discovery provides new insights into our shared heritage and reveals potential locations for establishing additional integrated colonies. Elena felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she listened to the reports. What had begun as an archaeological expedition had evolved into something that was reshaping interstellar civilization. The station had become proof that different species could not only coexist but thrive together, creating new technologies, art forms, and social structures that none could have achieved alone. There is one matter requiring thy attention, Lyralii said privately, using their empathic connection rather than speaking aloud. Over the months, their bond had deepened beyond the professional into something that Elena was still learning to navigate. What is it? Elena responded through the same mental channel, marveling once again at how natural the Ethran telepathic abilities felt when filtered through their shared genetic heritage. A personal matter. The Council of Elders on Ethros Prime has sent a formal invitation for both of us to visit their world. They wish to officially recognize our partnership and offer certain traditional blessings. Elena felt her cheeks warm as she understood the implications. Ethran culture placed tremendous importance on partnerships that bridged different aspects of existence, and the elders clearly saw her relationship with Lyralii as significant beyond its political and cultural dimensions. Are you sure about this? Elena asked through their private connection. A formal partnership with an alien leader isn't exactly what I planned when I started this archaeological expedition. Nor did I plan to fall in love with a human who insists on treating ancient prophecies as collaborative research projects, Lyralii replied with gentle humor. Yet here we are, having created something neither of us could have imagined alone. Elena considered this while the council meeting continued around them. 6 months ago, she'd been a xenoarchaeologist focused on understanding dead civilizations. Now she was helping to build living bridges between species, facilitating understanding on a galactic scale, and apparently falling in love with an ancient alien whose people saw their relationship as cosmically significant. Dr. Vasquez, Ambassador Chen was saying, we've received approval from Earth Central for the expanded colony ship program. Within the next 5 years, we should have integrated human Ethran settlements established in 12 systems. And the Galactic Council has agreed to recognize New Ethros Station as an official neutral territory for interspecies diplomacy, added Representative Kthara from the Centauri Alliance. Your model of cooperative governance is being studied throughout known space. Elena nodded, still processing the magnitude of what they'd accomplished. None of this would have been possible without everyone's willingness to embrace change and seek understanding rather than dominance. The prophecies spoke of transformation, Valdris observed. But even our seers could not have foreseen how completely the Starborn would reshape our understanding of what's possible. After the council meeting concluded, Elena and Lyralii found themselves alone on the station's observation deck, watching the stars through the crystalline dome that crowned their shared achievement. "Do you ever regret it?" Lyralii asked quietly. "Abandoning thy quiet academic life for all this responsibility?" Elena considered the question seriously. Her life had become. 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the newly established New Ethro station, watching as construction crews, a mix of humans, Ethran, and reformed Kethmore raiders, worked together to complete the station's crystalline spires. The sight still amazed her, beings from multiple species collaborating to build something that represented hope rather than conquest. "The council meeting is ready to begin, my lord," Lyralii said, approaching with the fluid grace that Elena had come to associate with her closest advisor and, if she was being honest with herself, something much more personal. "Lyralii," Elena said with gentle exasperation, "we've talked about this. You don't need to call me, my lord, anymore. We're partners in this venture." "Old habits," Lyralii replied with the musical laugh that never failed to make Elena's heart skip. "Though I admit, I prefer the intimacy of using thy given name." Over the months since the awakening, their relationship had evolved far beyond the initial dynamic of worshipful alien and confused human. Elena had learned to appreciate Lyralii's intelligence, wisdom, and the way her alien perspective complemented Elena's human pragmatism. Lyralii, in turn, had moved beyond seeing Elena as a prophetic figure to recognizing her as an individual worth caring about for who she was rather than what she represented. "How are our newest arrivals settling in?" Elena asked as they walked toward the council chambers. "The latest group of humans with Ethran genetic markers have adapted remarkably well," Lyralii reported. "Dr. Martinez from the Centauri colonies has proven particularly adept at crystal singing, while Engineer Thompson has established an immediate rapport with our technology systems." Elena nodded with satisfaction. The discovery that roughly 1 in 10,000 humans carried dormant Ethran genetic sequences had revolutionized both species' understanding of their shared history. New Ethro Station had become a gathering point for these hybrid individuals, creating the first truly integrated human-Ethran community in galactic history. And the Kethmore integration program? Captain Vextar reports that his former crew members have taken to peaceful trade with enthusiasm bordering on obsession, Lyralii said with amusement. "They've discovered that exchanging art and knowledge is far more profitable than piracy, both financially and spiritually." The council chambers represented everything Elena hoped the station would become. Representatives from dozens of species sat around a crystalline table that translated thoughts and emotions as easily as words, facilitating understanding between beings who might never have communicated otherwise. Dar. Vasquez greeted Ambassador Chen from Earth Colonial Administration. "The latest reports from your station continue to exceed all expectations. The cultural exchange programs have resulted in technological advances that are revolutionizing our understanding of interspecies cooperation. The credit belongs to everyone who's chosen to participate," Elena replied, taking her seat at the table. "We've simply proven that different perspectives can create something greater than the sum of their parts." Captain